Hello, second sopranos. I'm just going to run through Come On to Him, All Ye That Labour, give you some pointers for breaths and rhythms and things to stress. This lovely aria, which needs line and simplicity of utterance too. So the main question for you will of course be the breaths. Do we breathe in the first phrase? Do we not? Well, if you can, then don't. What I mean to say is if you can last the phrase without breathing, then don't breathe. But you need to pick a tempo that's pretty reasonable and flowing. If you pick much slower than that, A, we lose the sense of gentle processional dance. It's got to be something that you could move lightly on your feet to. And B, it makes it so hard and laboured, and that's exactly what the aria is about. He will give you rest from your labours. So don't take a too slow tempo. Yeah, breathe or not as need be, but you will get extra marks for not breathing. I think it's fair of me to say that. In the next phrase, Come On to Him, that goes up to the G. The same thing applies, but I do understand that going up to the G, most of you will want to prepare with the breath, yeah? The thing is not to make the breaths stand out, just to keep them in the phrase. And make sure that you sing the that strongly, so the R has a good platform. So this is the end of the bottom, this is the last note of page 83 in the Watkins Shaw Novello. Come on to and then in this next bit, I would suggest you do the rhythm printed above. And he will give you rest. Why? Because in the alto solo that precedes your solo, every time we have and he will give you rest, Handel wrote out that rhythm. And although if you look at the facsimile, you can see that in the violin part he gives it, in the solo part he doesn't. Contextually speaking, we know from what Handel, from how fast he was writing, that he probably meant for you to dot it. If you don't want to dot it, that can be a stylistic choice as well, but that's my recommendation. Next thing, these same phrases just repeats basically. It's quite often usual to embellish a little bit. The more skilled soloists will embellish the second phrase starting in bar 31. I've heard this sort of thing and I rather like it if it's sensitively done. I merely offer it as a possibility. Something like this. Come on to him, all ye that labor. Come on to For your taste that might be too much. Sometimes it is. For mine, depends on how heavily I've eaten basically. But you make a decision, it's an option. Then this lovely descent into these other tonalities. You need to have your air well set before you enter with the consonants. So the air is pressurized before you introduce the T, which comes before the vowel. Take his yoke, so that we don't have the effect of take his yoke and everything is given away. Set the air fraction before you introduce the T, and then make sure the jaw is relaxed. Take his yoke upon you. And then the trill's strictly optional. If you've got a good trill, it's just a little tiny shake kind of thing. And learn of him, but always starting on the upper note. For he is meek. Breathe if you need to, but only if you need to. And lowly of heart. Breathe. And ye shall find rest. Breathe. And ye shall find rest. Stress that first E-A, rest unto your souls. Same thing applies second phrase. You might put a little embellishment on learn, something like this. And learn of him, and learn of him. You might, or you might not. He's meek and lowly of heart. Remember that the length of your breath is not determined by how much lung capacity you have or how big you are. It is almost entirely determined by how efficiently you are using the air in your larynx on your vocal folds. So some of the smallest singers on the planet, coloratura, sopranos and so on, have enormously long breaths because they have a very efficient phonation. Their chords are meeting along a very fine edge. So that's what determines the length of your breath, not the size of your rib cage or how much air you can get in, or even how successful your breathing is, although that does have an impact. How relaxed you are between breaths and how efficiently you're using your system. The main thing is the clarity of your phonation. So we're now, I just want to talk about the end of bar 51 basically. So make sure that when you're singing bar 50, and ye shall find rest, on that lovely open air vowel, make sure that the jaw is relaxed and there's no tightness creeping in as you've gone up to heart, and then there's back to these F's, there's no tightness creeping in. And ye shall find rest. Relax. You can slow it down a fraction here if you want and take a breath. Unto your souls. And I recommend probably not doing a trill here, as it overcomplicates things a bit, unless you're incredibly skilled and can put a little glottal lean on the upper note. To your souls. But it probably won't add anything to the atmosphere that you've created, and it may well detract. You also don't have to breathe after rest, but I've heard sopranos successfully do that maybe one time in 10, so perhaps you're one of those, but most likely you're not. Okay, I'm going to play it for you to sing along to, and I'll put in some embellishments in the vocal line. Please forgive any errors. Here's the bar you come in on this note, okay? Can we do that again? Just come in. 3 and 4. Good. Some interesting notes there. Hope that's been helpful to you. Good luck.